Hey, what's up guys, mine's Fast, welcome back to another RPG Maker tutorial. It has been 1 month and we're covering healing assist skills from Fire Emblem Heroes. Basically a continuation from an ongoing series, just not directly stated that it's an ongoing series. Well, we'll be covering a few healing skills today, and we'll be covering Rehabilitate. Well, I guess I should mention that I'm covering the strongest versions of these healing skills. So in this case, we're covering Rehabilitate Plus, for example, instead of Rehabilitate, because they have actually different formulas. But basically, we're covering Rehabilitate Plus, Recover Plus, Restore Plus, which has a very general formula for healing skills, Martyr Plus, Ardent Sacrifice, and Sacrifice. Besides that, well, my computer fan is still going on, so you might hear that in the background. But other than that, let's begin. Alright, going on with the plugins first and foremost, because that seems to be a tradition here on this channel, right after the intro. We actually only have a few here. Skill Core, because we had to do... Actually, Skill Core is probably the most important one here, because we are going to have to deal with a lot of scripts within the skill... Well, we're going to be using a lot of note tags, basically, using Yanfly's Skill Core. And we're also going to be using Yanfly's Target Core and Selection Control. Less for the Target Core and more for the Selection Control, which is basically the only reason is that we want the healing skills to only be used on someone else someone else and not the user themselves. Like a typical Fire Emblem staff healing type of deal. Besides that, yeah, we can just go on with the first set of skills here. So, in accordance with a previous recording that actually failed because, well, not because of the length, but because I actually made a mistake with Rehabilitate Plus, I'll be recording these skills in pairs, so keep that in mind. Going on Recover Plus here, and Restore Plus as well. Recover Plus will recover HP equal to 50% of the user's magic, plus 10, which is what we have represented in the formula here. By the way, all these healing skills will be having the scope of one ally, and in accordance with that, since we don't want the user to be healed from this, we'll be using select conditions from the selection control plugin. We'll send the select conditions to not user, so we don't target the user, and I'm pretty sure it worked, so we're going with this. Besides that, we have the pre-damage evaluation, which is used from the skill core. Now, the reason why is because Recover Plus actually all of these healing skills actually have a minimum HP of healing. So Recover Plus has a minimum of 15 HP of healing. I think Recover, the base form of Recover Plus, actually doesn't have a minimum and has a different formula altogether. So it's nice that Recover Plus has a minimum. Anyways, if the value is greater than -15, now if you're not fully aware on how value works in RPG Maker, if the value is a negative value, that means it's healing. If it's a positive value, it's damage. And since, say, if the target was being healed for 10 HP at base, that'd be -10. And since -10 is greater than -15, that is... Wait, since -10 is greater than -15... -10 is greater, right? -10 is... Wait. I mean, it's greater technically, but it's not greater in terms of healing. That's what I was trying to wrap my head around. Basically, we do want to raise it up to -15 healing, because -10 healing is less than... 10 healing is less than 15 healing, basically. And we'll be setting that by setting value equals to -15. The semicolon is important here, by the way. Besides that, Restore Plus is very similar. The formula is magic divided by 2, so 50% of magic. And same select conditions. And instead of the minimum being 15, the minimum is actually 8. So we'll be setting that to -8. Besides that, yeah, that's pretty much it for Recover Plus and Restore Plus. Messed up a few times, but we have to go on with the difficult ones now. Alright, going on Rehabilitate Plus and Martyr Plus, which I'm gonna have a very difficult time saying Rehabilitate Plus because it's a very long word. Rehabilitate Plus is going to recover HP equal to the user's 50%, equals 50% of the user's magic attack, and subtract that value by 10. But the minimum healing will be 7, which is actually lower, but granted, there is a reason for this. And that is because if the target is actually at 50% or lower HP, we'll be recovering more HP to that target. Now, how we're going to do this? With more evaluations using script calls. The problem I mentioned earlier was that I actually divided the target's HP by the max HP, which makes no sense at all because that would always be less than half, because that'd be less than 1, for example. And we don't want to do that, so we'll be having... we actually don't need this one. I just left it in so I could explain that problem to you. Instead, you can just write target.hp as current or cur here, right? As cur right here. So if you want to do that, that's totally fine. You don't need another variable. You just need this variable right here, which is var half. Now var half is going to check how much is 50% of the target's HP, which is target's max HP divided by 2. Then we'll be checking if the current HP is less than or equal to half. And we'll be doing that using this conditional branch right here. And if it is, then we'll be setting the value and subtracting, which is quote unquote adding healing, half minus the target HP, which I'm pretty sure isn't how Fire Emblem Heroes increase HP. It might be, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure I just made up my own formula here. When we're increasing the healing by the difference between the half the target's HP, target's max HP, and the target's current HP. So if the target's at 25 HP out of 100, and say the healing at base is 10, then it would increase that healing amount by 25, because 50 minus 25 is 25, because 50 is 50% 100. Yeah, it's a bit complicated when I explain it here. It might make more sense when we show the demonstration. And otherwise, we'll be having the value be a minimum healing of 7, which is what we're doing here. I think you just heard a beep, but don't quote me on that. Going on to Martyr Plus here, which is quite a bit different, I'm just saying. Alright, recovers HP to the target equal to the user's taken damage plus 50% of magic, minimum of 7 HP, really? And recovers HP to the user equal to 50% of the user's taken damage. Yikes. Okay, this one's a pretty good staff, by the way. It's not really staff. Staff's a weapon environment here. It's a healing assist skill. Using this complicated formula here, as we mentioned earlier, we'll be having. Let me read that again. Target equals to users. So the user taking damage is basically what. Basically, the user's missing HP. So we'll be checking that by checking the user's max HP minus their current HP, and we'll be adding 50% of their magic. As we stated earlier, we'll be checking the value we'll be checking the minimum using this conditional branch right here. But it's pretty much it is actually exactly the same as Rehabilitate's minimum healing conditional branch. Besides that, we have post-damage evaluation, which I'm pretty sure I should be setting this to pre-damage, because I did encounter a few problems with post-damage in Ardent Sacrifice and Sacrifice. So if any problems occur, I recommend putting it into pre-damage evaluation instead of post-damage. So the user will heal 50% of their missing HP, which we'll be setting a variable for heal equals to math.seal, which is going to round up the value by to the nearest whole number. User's max HP minus user's HP divided by 2. So if it's 100 minus 50, if the user has a max HP of 100 and they have 50 current HP, they'll be healing 50 divided by 2, which is 25. If that were to be a decimal point, it would round to the next value, or next whole number, as I mentioned earlier. And the user will gain HP equal to heal. These two are very difficult, I'm gonna be honest, but we have more difficult ones coming up, so get ready for that. Going on to Ardent Sacrifice. This is my third time recording this, but it is fine. Now, Ardent Sacrifice and Sacrifice are very complicated skills that involve healing another target, but at the cost of the user's HP. Let's go over them. Ardent Sacrifice is a skill that recovers 10 HP. The user will take 10 damage, but their HP can't fall below 1 in this scenario. So in order to do that, we'll be using a few script calls. Oh, also, if the target has full HP, this skill will do nothing. Same goes for Sacrifice, but this is mostly to replicate the fact that in Fire Emblem Heroes, a target with full HP cannot be targeted with Ardent Sacrifice, or Sacrifice. So instead, we made it so that the skill just fails. Pretty simple enough. Going on to the formula, we just need a flat 10, because it is just 10 HP and nothing else. Same select conditions right here, and going on to pre-damage evaluation, we'll be checking if the target is at 100% HP. And if the target's HP is equal to their max HP, then they're definitely at 100% HP, so wouldn't be doing nothing. And I realize why this is a problem with this next line, because I repeated that twice. So we're setting the value to 0 in this case. If the target's HP is less than the target's maximum HP, however, the user will take up to 10 damage. Now, we do want to check if the user has less than 10 HP, because otherwise, or less than or equal to 10 HP, because otherwise they would typically die from this effect. So if the user's HP is less than or equal to 10, we'll be having a variable for damage here, equal to the user's HP minus 1. If the user has 5 HP, they'll only be taking 4 damage with this script call. So the user will gain HP equal to minus damage, the negative form of damage, because, well, when it comes to gaining HP with the script call, negative values hurt you, and as opposed to value, which negative values heal you. So make sure to try not to get that mixed up too much. And otherwise, the user will gain minus 10 because it's minus 10. I could just go with minus value here, but minus 10 just seems easier to explain and stuff. So the user will be taking 10 damage because they have at least 11 HP. Going on to Sacrifice, there are many similarities between Sacrifice and Ardent Sacrifice. Well, except for the fact that it's based on the user's maximum or current HP as well. So, for example, if the target has 10 HP or 50 HP missing, and the user has 51 HP, they could heal all that 50 HP right up to maximum. However, if the user has, say, 10 or has only like 10 HP left, okay, let's actually change that. If the user has 11 HP left and we had that same 50 HP missing, 50 HP lost, the target that has 50 HP missing, then they'll only be healed 10 HP because the user only has 11 HP and they can't go below 1 like Ardent Sacrifice. So this is a very interesting skill, but it's also very complicated. And as per usual, nothing happens if the target has full HP. So for the formula here, we actually just need to put a 0 because we do want there to be a recovery of some sort, or some sort of damage, quote unquote. So we'll just be setting that to 0 so we can change that later. Anyways, going on to pre-damage evaluation, same deal. If the target has 100% HP, we'll be setting that to 0. Otherwise, we'll be doing this entire conditional branch and script calls here. We're calculating the variable for taken for the target by subtracting the target's max HP and the target's current HP. Then we'll be calculating the maximum HP we can heal, basing that on the user's HP, minus 1. Now, if the missing HP exceeds the user HP calculation, we'll be lowering the healing, because, again, we can only heal as much as the user can offer. If taken is greater than max, we'll be setting the value to equal to the negative of max. So if as I said earlier, the 11 HP unit and the 50 missing HP target, it's only be healing 10 HP in this case. However, if the taken amount of HP, 50, is less than the max, less than or equal to the max of the user. So if the user had 50 HP to spare, then we'll be setting that healing value to equal to the negative amount of taken. So if the target has 50 missing HP, they'll be healed 50 HP, and all is well. However, if the target's HP is less than the target's max HP, we're using this conditional branch again because we do want to check if the user still takes damage in accordance to this. We'll be setting variable for damage to equal value. So if the target, so however much the target healed, we'll be having the user take that damage. So the user will be gaining HP equal to the damage. And since it's negative, we don't need to put a negative here, because again, value and gain HP have opposite definitions of negative and positive, and it's very strange. Besides that, yeah, that's pretty much all it is with Sacrifice. I'll be showing off this in the demonstration, but it should be noted that for Ardent Sacrifice and Sacrifice, you do not want to use post-damage evaluation because that does cause some problems when the target is fully healed. I learned that myself, and, well, I learned it the hard way. Going on to the demonstration now, because this is a long segment. After the giant ordeal that was recording everything and trying to explain everything, which made me very tired, let's try to go over the healing assist skills. Now, as you can see, Runefire is at 10 HP, which, granted, won't be really important for this particular demonstration because I might do 2 separate ones. But that's mostly going to be used for Sacrifice and Ardent Sacrifice. And Herald has 1 HP, which we'll be using to cover Rehabilitate later on. Anyways, going on to Recover Plus. Runefire, by the way, has, I think it's 10 magic. For sure it's 10 magic. I said it's a 10 magic flat, so it's a little bit easier to understand. Recover Plus recovers HP equal to user's 50% of magic plus 10, which is going to be 15 HP on the dot, actually. And we'll be just using that to recover Herald. A flat 15 HP. Going to Restore Plus. We'll be just healing HP equal to the user's 50% of magic, which is supposed to be 5, but since we have a minimum 8 HP, it should heal 8. Which it did heal 8. Going on to Rehabilitate here. Now this is an interesting one. We'll be healing. Okay, I guess that top part doesn't really matter. It's gonna be like 1 HP, I think. Well, it's gonna be 0, but since it's a minimum of 7 HP, we're gonna be healing 7 HP at base, and we'll be recovering more if the target's HP is below 50%. And since Herald is definitely below 50%, something tells me we're gonna heal a lot. We're actually gonna be healing a bit. We're gonna be healing him all the way up to halfway, which is how I calculated it, but it's obviously not how Fire Emblem Heroes calculates it by a long shot. And going on to Martyr Plus, we'll be recovering HP to the targets equal to users taking damage plus 50% of magic. AKA, we have a lot of taking damage, and not that much magic. And then we'll also be healing HP to the user equal to 50% of the users taking damage, so we'll be healing 50% of our maximum HP. Not maximum HP, missing HP, sorry. And there you go. 50% of maximum HP restored, and Herald has some HP recovered. And apparently we can actually go over Ardent Sacrifice, which I did not plan at all, actually. Recovers 10 HP, and the user takes 10 damage, but HP cannot fall below 1. I won't demonstrate the HP cannot fall below 1 with Ardent Sacrifice. I'll be covering that with Sacrifice later on. So we'll be trying to heal. And we healed 10 HP. Now we're going to try to use Sacrifice, which does not heal just 10 HP, and actually recovers as much HP as we can, and also depending on the target's HP, of course. So 19 HP, right on the dot. Now we also can use, let's try to recover, we can't really recover that much, huh? Basically, let's try to use Sacrifice. I'll show you what happens if you try to use Sacrifice at 1 HP. Which basically just does 0 to everyone. Basically, this is what happens when Sacrifice and Ardent Sacrifice are also used on a target with full HP. So just putting that out there. Besides that, yeah, demonstration over. Finally. Going on to the outro now, so we can finish off this tutorial. Hey y'all, Runefire Storm at the outro here. I know that was a very messy tutorial because I had to explain so much stuff and some of it was a bit complicated. But I'm glad I got through it. By the way, this is tutorial number 45, and I'm pretty sure it's 45. And when it comes to 50, I'm probably gonna do something Fire Emblem skill related, probably Fire Emblem Heroes again, but I'm probably gonna be doing a very long tutorial on maybe recreating every single passive skill that can, or that's unique in Fire Emblem Heroes. That's my plan, but that's gonna take a lot of work. Probably at least a month for tutorial work, and that's not really how much time I spend in tutorial. I spend like 4 hours on tutorial. So we'll see how that goes. If not that, then probably some other Fire related thing. Probably just a big tutorial in general. And after that, I'm probably gonna review every single tutorial and give my thoughts on how I did on each one. Besides that, yeah, still very messy tutorial this one. I did not speak properly because my voice is not used to talking right now, I guess. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Next time, I don't know what we're doing because I don't even know when we're gonna be doing it. Maybe in 2 weeks, maybe in 3. We'll see how it is. Probably not in the time span that I did last month, because last month there was like 2 in like, what, a week? Not doing that. But anyways, yeah. See you guys and stay safe.